Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're tackling a topic that's, well, it's really generating a lot of buzz these days, and that's adult autism in the workplace.
Mm.
You guys shared a really interesting blog post with us called Adult Autism Doesn't Hold People Back at Work, Discrimination Does. And this is from the folks at Cheap ABA. So let's break down some of these common misconceptions and really kind of uncover what autistic individuals really bring to the table. What do you think?
Well, the title of that blog post is certainly a powerful statement. It really challenges us to confront some uncomfortable truths about how we perceive
Yeah.
and treat autistic adults, especially in professional settings.
Yeah, it almost feels like
Yeah.
they're flipping the script on us, right?
Yeah.
Instead of asking, can autistic people work? They're saying, wait a minute, maybe the problem isn't autism itself, but the way we as a society create barriers.
Precisely. And this is where things get really interesting. Because when we dig deeper, we find that many of the traits often associated with autism can actually be incredible strengths in the workplace.
Okay, so let's get into it. We've all heard that stereotype. Adults with autism can't hold down jobs. But this blog post is like, hold my coffee. Let's talk facts.
And the facts show that autistic adults are just as capable of working as anyone else. In fact, they often possess unique skills and abilities that make them highly valuable employees. The problem is, many employers still operate with outdated assumptions and fail to recognize this potential.
So let's talk about some of those hidden strengths. The blog post lists attention to detail as a major one. What kind of impact does that have in a work setting?
Well, attention to detail is crucial in so many professions. Think about data analysis, where accuracy is paramount, or accounting, where even a small error can have huge consequences. Autistic individuals often have an incredible ability to focus on the minutiae, to spot discrepancies that others might miss. This can be a game changer in fields that demand precision.
Yeah, it's funny when you think about it. We live in a world that's increasingly reliant on data, on systems, on processes. So wouldn't that make those who are naturally detail-oriented even more valuable?
Absolutely, and it goes beyond just numbers. Think about quality control, for instance. An autistic individual might be the one to catch a tiny flaw in a product that could lead to major safety issues down the line. Their meticulousness can literally save lives.
Wow, that's a great example. Okay, another strength the blog post highlights is problem-solving skills. How does that play out in the workplace? And is it connected to the whole thinking outside the box thing we hear about?
It absolutely is. Autistic individuals often approach problems from a different angle. They may not be as bound by conventional thinking or traditional methods. This can lead to truly innovative solutions. Think about someone who sees patterns that others don't, or who can connect seemingly unrelated ideas. They can be the key to unlocking breakthroughs that have stumped everyone else.
I'm thinking about all those amazing inventors and innovators throughout history who had autistic traits. Their ability to see the world differently is what led to some of the most groundbreaking discoveries.
That's a fantastic point. Their unique way of thinking allowed them to challenge the status quo, to question assumptions, and to push the boundaries of what's possible.
And let's not forget about work ethic. I've heard from so many employers who sing the praises of autistic employees for their reliability and dedication.
Yes. Autistic individuals are often known for their strong work ethic. They tend to be highly focused,
Oh, yeah.
dedicated to their tasks, and less prone to distractions.
I think a lot of that stems from their love of routine and structure. It's not just about working hard, it's about working consistently and reliably.
And for many autistic individuals, the workplace provides that sense of structure and predictability that can be so important for their well-being.
All right, so we've got attention to detail, problem-solving skills, strong work ethic. What else?
The blog post also mentions honesty and directness as key strengths. Now, this might not be something we typically think of as a desirable trait in the workplace, but
Hold on, let me jump in here.
Yeah.
Because I have to say, in a world where everyone seems to be sugarcoating everything, I find that refreshing. Just give it to me straight. Tell me what you really think.
I agree. And in the workplace, that kind of clear, unambiguous communication can be incredibly valuable. It can prevent misunderstandings, streamline decision-making, and foster a culture of transparency.
It's like cutting through all the noise and getting right to the heart of the matter. So tell me, how does this honesty and directness play out in team dynamics? Because teamwork is so important in most work environments these days.
It can actually be a huge asset in teams. Autistic individuals are often very good at providing constructive feedback, identifying areas for improvement, and offering solutions without beating around the bush. They don't play office politics or engage in passive-aggressive behavior. They simply state what they observe and what they believe needs to be done.
It's not about being rude or insensitive. It's about being clear and upfront, which can ultimately benefit the entire team.
Exactly. It's about fostering a culture of open and honest communication where everyone feels comfortable sharing their thoughts and ideas without fear of judgment or reprisal. And that kind of honesty and clarity can really be a breath of fresh air in a workplace where things can sometimes get a little too, well, a little too diplomatic.
Totally. Okay, so we painted a pretty compelling picture of the strengths that autistic adults bring to the table. But the blog post also acknowledges that there can be challenges, and I think it's important to talk about those as well.
Absolutely. It's not about pretending that challenges don't exist. It's about recognizing them and finding ways to address them effectively. One of the biggest challenges for autistic individuals in the workplace is sensory overload.
Right, and that's something that most neurotypical people probably don't even think about on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Can you explain what sensory overload is and how it might affect someone at work?
Sure. Sensory overload happens when the brain gets overwhelmed by too much sensory input. Things like bright lights, loud noises, strong smells, or even certain textures. For someone with autism, these everyday sensations can be magnified and feel incredibly intense and distracting. It can make it difficult to focus, concentrate, and even just be comfortable in a typical office environment.
That makes sense. So what can employers do to create a more sensory-friendly workplace?
Well, there are actually a lot of simple things that employers can do to make a big difference. For example, they can provide quiet spaces where employees can go to decompress if they're feeling overwhelmed. They can also offer noise-canceling headphones or earplugs to help reduce auditory distractions.
I've also heard about the importance of lighting. Fluorescent lights can be really harsh for some people, right?
Exactly. Natural light is always best. But if that's not possible, employers can opt for softer, more diffused lighting that's less likely to trigger sensory overload, and even something as simple as allowing employees to adjust the temperature in their workspace can make a huge difference in their comfort level.
It's amazing how many things we take for granted. That can be really challenging for someone with sensory sensitivities.
It's all about creating a workplace that is accessible and inclusive for everyone.
The blog post also talks about the importance of clear communication. I'm guessing that ties into the potential for misinterpreting social cues or unspoken expectations.
Yes, autistic individuals often have difficulty interpreting social cues and nonverbal communication. This can lead to misunderstandings and misinterpretations in the workplace. So it's incredibly important to be direct, explicit, and avoid ambiguity in communication.
So instead of saying something like, let's circle back on that later, it's better to say, let's meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. to discuss this further.
Precisely. Clear, concise language, written instructions, visual aids, all of these things can help ensure that everyone is on the same page and that expectations are clearly understood.
And what about social skills training? Is that something that can be helpful in a workplace setting? I know some people might hear that and think, well, that's trying to change who someone is.
It's not about changing who someone is at all. It's about providing them with tools and strategies to navigate social situations more effectively. Think of it like learning a new language. You're not changing your identity. You're simply expanding your ability to communicate with others.
So social skills training could help someone feel more comfortable in meetings, presentations, or even just casual interactions with colleagues.
Exactly. It can help them build confidence, reduce anxiety, and improve their overall workplace experience.
So we've talked about sensory challenges, communication differences. Are there any other common challenges that autistic adults might face at work?
One challenge that often comes up is the need for flexibility. Autistic individuals often thrive on routine and predictability. Changes in schedule, unexpected deadlines, or last-minute assignments can be very stressful.
So how can employers create a more flexible work environment without sacrificing productivity or creating chaos?
It's all about finding a balance, offering options like flexible work hours, remote work opportunities, or the ability to take breaks when needed can go a long way in reducing stress and improving well-being.
And let's not forget about the legal side of things. What are some of the legal protections in place for autistic individuals in the workplace?
In many countries, there are laws that prohibit discrimination based on disability, including autism. These laws require employers to provide reasonable accommodations to employees with disabilities, unless doing so would cause an undue hardship for the business.
So what would be considered a reasonable accommodation?
It really depends on the individual's needs and the specific job requirements. But some examples might include providing a quiet workspace, modifying work schedules, or offering assistive technology.
And it's important to remember that these accommodations are not special favors. They're about creating a level playing field for everyone.
Exactly. It's about ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to contribute their talents and skills
Yeah.
to their fullest potential.
This blog post really emphasizes the employer's role in creating an inclusive work environment. But what about the autistic individual themselves? What can they do to advocate for their needs and navigate the workplace successfully?
Self-advocacy is crucial. This means being able to articulate your strengths, communicate your needs clearly, and seek support when you need it.
But that can be really tough, right? Especially if you're already feeling anxious or overwhelmed in a new work environment.
It can be, but it gets easier with practice. It might be helpful to rehearse what you want to say beforehand, or even write it down. And remember, you don't have to disclose your autism diagnosis. If you don't feel comfortable doing so, you can simply focus on communicating your specific needs and preferences.
So, for example, you could say, I work best in a quiet environment with minimal distractions. Or, I prefer to receive instructions in writing rather than verbal.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and communicating your needs in a way that is clear and assertive.
And if an employer isn't receptive to those needs, what resources are available to help autistic individuals advocate for themselves?
There are many organizations that offer support and guidance to autistic individuals in the workplace. They can provide information about legal rights, accommodation strategies, and conflict resolution techniques.
So it's about knowing your rights, finding your voice,
Yeah.
and building a support system. That's such an empowering message.
Yeah, and it's so important to remember that everyone has that right, to feel safe and supported at work. And that includes autistic individuals.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
when we create workplaces that are truly inclusive, everyone benefits.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about adapting existing workplaces to be more autism-friendly. But this blog post got me thinking, what if we went even further? What if we designed workplaces from the ground up with neurodiversity in mind?
Now, that's a fascinating idea.
Mm.
Imagine workplaces where sensory sensitivities are not just accommodated, but actually integrated into the design
Yeah.
of the space itself.
Right, like instead of just offering noise-canceling headphones, what if we designed office spaces with like built-in soundproofing
Designated quiet zones.
or instead of fluorescent lighting, what if we maximized natural light and used adjustable lighting systems that cater to individual preferences?
We could even rethink the whole open plan office concept, which I know can be so overwhelming for some people. Maybe we create more private workspaces or flexible layouts that allow people to choose the environment that best suits their needs.
I love that. It's about creating a workplace that is responsive to individual needs and preferences, rather than trying to force everyone to conform to a one-size-fits-all model.
And if we really want to tap into the unique strengths of autistic individuals, we need to think about how we structure work itself.
That's a key point. Traditional job roles often emphasize multitasking, collaboration, and constant communication, which can be challenging for some autistic individuals.
So maybe we start to break down those rigid job descriptions
Yeah.
and create roles that are more focused on individual strengths and interests.
For example, someone with a passion for data analysis might thrive in a role that allows them to work independently on complex projects, while someone with strong communication skills could excel in a customer service role that involves clear, structured interactions.
It's about recognizing that there are many different ways to contribute to a team and to achieve success.
And when we design workplaces that value those differences, we create a more dynamic, innovative, and productive environment for everyone.
This whole conversation has really shifted my perspective. It's not just about making small adjustments here and there. It's about fundamentally rethinking how we approach work and how we design workplaces.
It's about moving away from a deficit-based model where we focus on what people can't do and embracing a strengths-based approach that celebrates neurodiversity.
And that's not just good for autistic individuals. It's good for businesses, for communities, for society as a whole.
It's about unlocking human potential and creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Well said. This has been such an insightful deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about adult autism in the workplace. And I'm excited to continue exploring this topic further.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
And to all of you listening out there, I hope this conversation has sparked some new ideas and inspired you to think differently about neurodiversity in the workplace. If you're an employer, I encourage you to consider some of the practical steps we've discussed today. And if you're an autistic individual, navigating the world of work, remember that you are not alone. There are resources available to support you, and your unique talents and perspectives are valuable. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive to